Cool. Recording is working and transcript is working.
I think I got the notification through. I think we're going.
Cool. Okay. Ready?
Ready.
Cool. Hello, YPN. Alex Daly here. Back another month for another Your Property project. This one's a little bit different. So usually what we've done, and as you'll have seen, usually what we do is do completed projects that we've seen from kind of start to finish, and we discuss, all the details that have happened from start to finish, as I say. This one's a little bit different. Joined today by James Ross, who has undertaken a colossal project. Now, I've seen the photos of this, seen the drawings, and yeah, it's huge. It's huge. And so we're going to break this one down a little bit different. We're going to break this one down. We're going to talk mainly about what he's described as phase one of the project today. But we will touch into what the other phases are. I think there's 5 in total. So we'll dive into those. Before we kind of look at the actual project, James, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about what you're about, life pre-property, as well as, of course, now in property. So yeah, take it away.
So yeah, I'm now full-time developer and investing in property, but wasn't always the case. I've been just over 7 years doing this now, and before that, a very, very short and employed career in engineering. I did a 5-year degree at Loughborough University, Masters of Engineering, and then just very short 2.5, 3 years working. I spent about a year working at Jaguar Land Rover down in Gaydon, doing aerodynamics, and then 2 years for Ferrari motorsport team, again doing aerodynamics there. My degree was in aeronautical, so it kind of, if you know anything about Formula One, the cars are actually more like upside down airplanes than they are actually cars, from an aerodynamic point of view anyway. So yeah, that was kind of a very, very brief introduction of what I did before property. It was brilliant. It was a brilliant sort of 2-3 year career, very short, but it just didn't quite fit for me, having to be at work for a certain time. You've always got a boss, you're always working with somebody else. It just never quite felt right. I really enjoyed my time living in Italy. It was a brilliant place. It was kind of all expenses paid for the 2 years I was there. Really made most of it, but it just didn't quite feel right from the kind of work side of it. I didn't quite feel completely satisfied. And also it kind of helped out that when I was just finishing my degree, I saved up quite a bit of money throughout my childhood. Spent quite a bit of time working in my uncle's farm shop, doing any hours I could in between school, sixth form, saving what I could. And they had a decent amount of savings when I come out of university. So I bought a flat, a little 1 bed, probably not even 40 square meters. 2014 that would have been, which looking back was a great time to buy. Wasn't that long after the financial crash. Price was still cheap. You could still get a bargain. I paid, I think, 70 grand for it.
Mm-hmm. Where was that?
Where?
Yes.
Where? Tamworth. All of my properties are based all around the Tamworth area. It's apart from the first couple, the rest of them I can walk from my house to all of them in 5 minutes, 10 minutes max. So I bought it towards the end of university, and after being at work, it's time to had it a couple of years, time to get it revalued, and it went up substantially in the couple of years I had it. Got it revalued and got a big chunk of money paid back out. This is all, I didn't do any kind of formal property training, all the kind of buy and releasing money. So just kind of, it went up in value. I thought I could borrow against that, release some money out of it. And at the time, it was a big chunk of money that I got back. And at the very similar time to getting that was my kind of yearly review, bonus, pay rise for the year. I'd done loads and loads and loads of hours of unpaid overtime. And it was time to talk about your pay increase. And it was something like 3-4%, which seems okay, but for the hours I put in, by the time you take off your tax, take off everything else, it was like an extra, you could probably buy a t-shirt extra at the end of every month. And put that next to getting a 5-figure payout for doing nothing. It was a bit like, something don't quite add up here. I'm spending all these hours and all this effort doing this. I've not done that much work there, and it's paid me this. So I left, pretty much. Handed my notice in not long after that.
Mm-hmm. So you had one property, and that was enough. That was enough for you to leave for that. And then was the plan then to go further into property, go deeper into property with that?
Yeah, it was actually 2. One I bought at the very tail end of university,
right.
And not long after that, a sort of 3-bed standard terraced house, 1980s build. That needed a bit of work, liquor paint, new kitchen, second-hand kitchen. Actually, I got off eBay, new bathroom, very, very cheap. The refurb cost me 5-6 grand. So it was that one as well. So the two of them side by side, it paid probably 500 quid after mortgage and payments every month. But I saved up a little bit, and I kind of had enough to survive for, say, 6 months. And I thought, let's give this 6 months work, see if I can. I had another property coming through anyway, so I thought I'll leave the job, renovate this property, see if I can find some more, release some more money, and see how long I can keep this going for. Worst case, I'll just go back to work. But yeah, fast forward 7 years and still kind of winging it.
Still doing it. So I love that. So you did the work on these properties yourself, did you?
Yeah, the first one, a flat, it didn't need much more than, I think, a new plug and a new spark in the hob. The second one, liquor paint everywhere, new flooring, new kitchen, new bathroom. Yeah, pretty much all of it myself around work. So I was kind of finishing work, was at Jaguar Land Rover, driving an hour home, working till 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night, towards the end, sort of 2, 3 in the morning, back up at 6, back into work the next day to get it done.
Sounds like you kind of stumbled across the buy, refurbish, refinance, rent just on a super slow. You kind of flip the rent and refinance, and it was a super slow version. I always refer to those. Yeah, it's the slow BRRR. When you just use the, rather than using a bridging loan, you did it through your mortgage, your 2-year fix, and at the end of that you bring some money back out.
There's all these buzzwords you kind of hear a lot now. I'm kind of further into property, realizes YPN, realizes networks of no money down and BR and all that. But it's kind of look back thinking, I've been kind of doing that already. It's good to know that
across it.
It's an actual way of doing it. But yeah,
absolutely, and it would have made sense at the time. You stumbled across it, it made sense, and you kept doing it. So at that time you then got your third. How have we gone then from the 3 properties at that time to where we are now, which is a huge project. So what were the steps in between there, or did you literally just jump from here to here?
No, there was I think there's probably 7 projects in between. So after that, there was the one I was buying as I was leaving work. Again, it was going to be another kind of, it needed a lot more work than the first 2. It was going to be very simple, buy to let, refurbish, and rent out. But it didn't quite happen that way. Just as I was in Italy, I met my partner. She lived in London at the time. We actually met. I was coming home for a weekend from Italy. I used to have to fly to London Stansted and get the train up. And she lived in London, and she was going on a hen party in Manchester. So we got on the same train, sat next to each other, and the rest had gone history. So when I left my job, I moved here in the May, living with my parents, doing the property up with the goal of renting it out, using that income, borrowing against it, and that should get me the 4th, and so on. She wanted to leave London, so yeah, we ended up moving in, and this is the place I'm sat in now. So I never actually got to rent it out.
Oh, really? Okay, so that was the actual project.
Yeah, that was the project. Yeah, now it's been our family home for 7 years, and we've now got a young daughter here.
Fantastic. Okay. So then take me through to this project. Give us a bit of an overview on it first, and then let's dive into the kind of the purchasing process and the due diligence. Yeah, but give us a bit of an overview.
Yeah. So of course, yeah. I didn't answer your previous question. So from that project to the big one, yeah, there's about 7 other projects, 3 HMO conversions, a multi-unit freehold block with commercial, and then I kind of took the step back. Once the HMOs were kind of covering enough income to scrape by on, I hate managing and running HMOs. I've gone back to buy-to-lets, done a few of them. Actually done some HMO to single-let conversions, which is opposite to the normal.
Yeah, you don't hear that often.
No, but it's good. It's good for tax. It's 5% tax, even going the opposite way. And did a few of those, and then and this property came up. So I was finishing a commercial resi conversion, 4 flats, shop below, and we've got a new build behind. And I was just finishing that up, just starting to go through the refinance process, and this place came on the market, and it come on the market at 195 was the asking price, and it was these 3 separate buildings, massive, about an acre site in total. I was like, how is that just that price? Had a look around, and it was a right mess. It was badly fire damaged, burnt down, 14 years ago.
What are the buildings? Talk us through what each building kind of is.
Yeah, so you got each building Set B listed, Grade 2 listed on their own. You've got a row of former workers' cottages, which is phase 1 that we're doing now. You've got the main mill, which was a 4-story, probably 250 square meters per floor building, and then the manager's house on the front. So that's going to be the very last phase. And then behind that, there's about an acre plot of ground where we're putting new build business units on. So all these buildings, they're all falling down. They're all kind of, even the one that burnt down looks terrible, but the rest are equally as bad. If you start picking behind and taking off the roof tiles, the timbers are all knackered, everything's rotten, everything's falling apart. At least the one that burnt down is kind of cleared out, ready to go.
Okay. So it came on at 195.
Yep.
Presumably that was just on your right move, your Zooplas, was that, or was that somewhere specific?
No, just popped up on Zoopla.
Okay, so you viewed it, went down. It wasn't at auction. It was for kind of your usual method.
That's it. Yeah, just straight and standard sale. It wasn't really open for viewings. You couldn't really go into any of the buildings. I assume they just wanted us to drive past the site and have a look.
Sure.
Now,
looking at my notes, there was something different about it though, with regard to the planning. Correct me if I'm wrong. There was no planning already approved, and you couldn't offer subject to planning it. Is that correct?
That's it. Yeah, the family that owned it, they were kind of very experienced in property development. They're hundreds of millions, I'm guessing, of kind of their portfolio. So they just kind of wanted rid of it. I think they've just been too busy before now to sell it, so they've not got around to it. It's kind of on that price. If you want it, have it. Don't ask questions. Don't ask for details. Don't even ask for viewing. Give us some money, take it, and then the risk's all yours.
And just to give some context to the readers and watchers there, what a lot of developers will do is they will see a site that looks like it will end up going and have permission, and they'll be able to build on it. They will offer, but they'll offer subject to planning permission. And then whilst the offer's been accepted, let's call it 195 just for argument's sake, they will then go through the planning approval stage. Once they've got approval, they will then buy the site, and if they don't get approval, they can back out with a minimal penalty. This site was different because they had explicitly said that it was not going to be subject to planning and permission. That's it. Yeah.
So it's kind of all the risk was on myself. But if they went down the route of doing it with an option agreement, they could have asked for probably double, maybe even triple the money. But it could have took years to go. Well, it did take years. It took years to get planning. But if they would have made, they probably weren't that interested. They just wanted rid and out of the way. And when I went round to view the site, normally you'd go there, you'd think, how many plots can I get here? Work it all out, get quite an accurate build cost, quite an accurate GDV. You could guess your timescales, probably 18 months from that period. You could get within a small 5-figure fund. There's some quite an accurate land purchase. With this, there was no idea. You couldn't work out. It was, do I want it? Yes, let's have it, sort of thing. But so did a lot of other people. There's a lot of offers, a lot of formal offers that went through. So it ended up going actually up to 310,000 with the actual purchase price. It did include a bit more land than what was originally agreed. But yeah, it was one of them. I really wanted the site, and it's perhaps a bit silly of me, but the agent was like, there's all these offers. What's your best and final? And I was like, I'll call it 300. And then there was an extra bit of land that come in that we agreed 10,000 for.
Sure. So 310 for a bunch of buildings that were fallen down, and no planning permission and no guarantee of it. What was the anxiety like going through that process? Because that's a hell of a lot of money. It's presumably at that point most of the cash that you've got sitting around.
Yes,
it's all of it. What were you thinking? both literally and with the what we.
I probably wasn't, but I always kind of came back to the same kind of conclusion that I was 3 years younger than I am now. I didn't have a family. I had my partner, of course, but she's very tolerant to my workload and my work ethic. It's on my doorstep. When am I ever going to get a chance to scale up from a commercial property to 4 flats to this kind of site? If it's with planning, with all that, you're kind of talking, all your big boys will go for stuff like that. It's the only chance I've got to go for it. And if not now, then when? When do places like this come up? It just felt right from the moment it came on. I kind of never thought maybe I shouldn't, maybe, and I always thought no, let's do it. What's the worst that could happen?
Yeah. What was the worst that can happen? You end up with a site that was nothing, and then what would you do to sell it on, or what?
I'd probably sell it on, but with because that I did a listed property just before there, and with listed buildings, if it's in my opinion, if it's a really good quality, perfectly finished listed building, and you're putting in permission to change it to something else, you're going to come across a lot of walls. But if it's a derelict site falling down on the risk register, dangerous, kids are breaking in there and risk getting hurt, you kind of got that listed status on your side.
Mm-hmm.
I always knew you'd get planning for something. Something will happen. I'm sure I could have put in to knock the main mill down. I probably would have got it, but that weren't my interest.
Mm-hmm. Okay, interesting. So you've actually flipped the fact that it's listed, which often puts people off, as a positive, and that the local kind of council is actually more incentivized to have something, have something there that's operational, rather than just have a site that's being graffitied on.
Yeah.
Is that a bit of a strategy that you kind of learned from this? Had you been told about this, or was that just a punt?
No, it kind of evolved from the listed building I did previous. If your kind of goals, because I enjoy the old buildings, I enjoy restoring them, putting things back to how they were, how they should have been. If your goals kind of align with the conservation officer, then it's no more work really than a standard plan application.
Mm-hmm. But you hadn't spoken with them prior to your offer, just to clarify.
Yes, I did, but I didn't tell the seller. Yeah, I didn't tell the seller, and luckily it worked in my favour. The conservation officer actually changed. There was the person below the previous one actually stepped up and took over her job. She was very strict, very kind of heritage preservation. That's it. His new job title was conservation and urban design. Mm-hmm. So he was more kind of looking to the future, and that really worked well in my favour. Because I got him on board from the start. I was like, "What do you think? How should we do it? What would you like to see?" And then he kind of helped lead the planning. So when planning went in, he kind of couldn't disagree.
Sure. I guess you're mitigating risk there as well when you're doing that prior to actually offering. Okay, let's talk about the planning, because that, even though you've got someone on side, it's not going to be a cakewalk. How was that whole process?
That was the stressful part. The purchase and the kind of what ifs, that was fine. I could live with that quite easy. With the planning, you're kind of just waiting around for other people to make decisions, and that's the part that really bothered me, especially towards the end when I couldn't really see why it was taking so long. That bothered me. Luckily, I bought the site outright for cash, so there was no kind of financial implications there. But I just wanted to get started. I was just eager to get the tools out, get the hammer out, and just start making a mess. But yeah, the planning, it was tough. Looking back, actually, it could have gone a lot worse, but I've never been for a major plan application before. And yeah, we hit kind of every obstacle, because not only was each building listed, it was in a conservation area. There was trees within the conservation area that we had to remove. Bats, there wasn't any bats living in the buildings, but they're using them for dinner. So the bats, they said, they used to fly from one nest, come into one of them, eat some butterflies, and then fly off. So bats to sort. The neighbouring reservoirs, there's been otter spottings there, so do otter mitigation. Same with great crested newts. There's biodiversity. For some reason, Lichfield District Council have brought in BNG before the national policy. So there's that we had to go through. Conservation area. And then, because the way we've done the plan application was something called enabling development, it's one of the very few reasons you're allowed to build on Greenbelt, is if you can prove you need that profit to restore a listed building. So part of the land behind was technically Greenbelt, although it was mostly car park. We got through the planning to build 8 new business units on there to offset the loss of restoring listed buildings. So that again was a big headache. So we had to show QS reports of all the accurate build costs, agents reports of GDVs, what profit we're going to make, and yeah, they did scrutinise that quite a lot. So that had to be really careful on. And what else? Pretty much any kind of obstacle you can get in planning, we had it. Acoustics. One of the buildings is 2 meters away from a 40-mile-an-hour speed limit road, so we had to get an acoustic report for acoustic glazing. Yeah, the list goes on.
I imagine that's quite expensive in terms of professional fees. from every single one of those things, it's all going to add up. Just
Yeah,
know roughly what you would have spent on
planning
the kind of
costs.
planning app.
Very roughly, planning application, including the pre-app and architect's fees, up to kind of technical design, was probably 60 grand, something like that.
A lot of money.
Yeah, it was. And then probably another 40, 50 on top of that for technical design, structures. Yeah, about that.
So buying the site, deciding what's going to be on the site, you know, with 100 grand there plus the 310, yeah, we're looking over 400,000 just before we've done anything. Did you have, obviously we've ended up with what's on there or what's going to go on there. Did you have various different plans? I know I was looking through the notes that you've added an extension. Did you look at the mill and the various other areas and think, oh, you know, I could do X, Y, and Z? And how did you decide on what you've currently got?
In terms of the plan application?
Yeah, in terms of what you wanted to go for, you know, was this a plan B? Did you have great designs of, I'm going to turn this into an amusement park, or I'm going to turn this into a great big, you know, something great big? What were you thinking in terms of, you know, your plan A, plan B, etc.?
Not at all really, because being listed, I never thought it was worth trying to go too big, get knocked back by the council, and almost kind of lose the trust in the conservation officer, thinking that I want the best of these buildings, which I do. So I didn't want to do anything too drastic with them. We did actually get through some quite big changes on kind of listed building standards. So we are extending the main mill up by about 1 metre to get a full 4-storey extensions to them. We've not got to put timber windows in. We can do aluminium throughout, standard gypsum plaster, solar panels on listed buildings. So we've done really well, but this was the main plan really, and especially because it's a build to rent scheme. Hopefully we'll see what happens to the mortgage market. All the existing buildings are going to residential. I didn't want to then go and build 30, 40, 50 flats behind to then rent them. It's too much in one area. So I kind of wanted to diversify. So my plan was always business units for the ground behind. And also build to rent new build flats aren't great from a tax point of view because of the VAT. Right. Whereas conversion is okay, you get 5%, but commercial, of course, you can reclaim it all.
Sure. Okay. And then you had, I know the current phase 1, which is the workers' cottages, if I'm not correct, that wasn't always actually going to be phase 1. Talk us through kind of where you got to there.
Yeah. So because the units are the enabling work, they're there to give the profit to restore the rest of the site. The profit from the new units is massive compared to the rest of the site. So I want to build them out as soon as I can, use that money just going forward. But to build, because this is where it gets a bit complicated, because they're part of enabling development, they only let me build those first if I had a strict phase plan in place to stop me building them, moving away to the Caribbean with all the profit and leaving the buildings to fall down. So I have to, part of the new build units I can occupy straight away. The rest of them I have to get the main mill to a structurally stable condition. We've got a big section on the schedule of work, so this has to be completed before these units can be occupied. So the new units in the mill all had to be done under one kind of big financial package, because if I was just covering one of it and I couldn't get finance to do this part at a later date, I'm kind of risking having parts finished that can't be occupied and a loan I need to pay back. But that loan would have been about, I think it's about 3.8, 3.9 million we're looking for to do all that. And it's, when was it? It was about this time last year. And the mortgage rates were just shooting up week by week. And also because of the site, because of all the complications, my experience in sites this big is none. Listed building, mixed use, the state of the edge, everything, it come down to just 2 lenders. I didn't know who the first one was because it was through a broker, and the second one was Crown Property. The one through the broker they were both more expensive than I wanted to pay for, but the one for the broker comes with a huge brokerage fee, which kind of was too much to swallow. So I was going with Crown Property. But then by the time I actually got planning, I was like, let's get this loan moving forward. There's, our rates have gone up. There was an exit fee that come in, and it just kind of knocked this profit down even further. I just couldn't swallow that. So I flipped on its head. What was going to be phase 5 is now phase 1. Has a a decent amount of profit. It's probably going to be 28 to 30% on GDV. So that allowing me to buy it, finish it, refinance it, and the investment money I put in, I'll get a bit of profit on top of that. So I could do that phase first, take the money back out, and then that should cover me to build the units, and then just go phase by phase, scaling up as I go. And yeah, it should add in the profit each time.
Basically dominoes, really. You've got a small domino here, small domino, I'm sure it's still pretty big, and that will then pay for this one, which will then eventually pay for this one and pay for this one, and at the end you'll have your final kind of version.
That's it. As long as I keep my development costs down and keep trying to push the GDVs as high as I can, as long as I'm above that 25% profit, I can keep them, refinance them, and my pot of money is growing as I'm working through the site.
Sure. Okay. Well, tell us about phase one, because phase one currently isn't finished yet, but is well on its way, and potentially even by the time that this goes out to print, and by the time you guys are watching this, it may well be finished or finishing. So yeah, tell us about phase one. You've mentioned that it was the kind of the workers' cottages, but yeah, tell us about the building. Give us a bit of a visual if you can. We'll have pictures and things, but give us a visual if you can, and then yeah, tell us about it.
Yep. So phase one is a row of 3 former workers' cottages. And then what was an extension at some point, it's probably a 200-year-old extension, which we think was the flour store for the mill. So of course you can't store your flour where you're milling because of the risk of explosion. So this is going to the front cottage was a business unit. That's stayed as a business unit. We restored it, but that's still a business unit. 2 cottages and then 2 apartments. So just 4 residential units in total. And yeah, we're a good chunk of the way through there. All the structural work, all the groundworks, all the landscaping is done. The roof, everything is all finished. The first unit is pretty much done, just kind of door handles and door stops. The second one will be done in a matter of weeks. The third one's plastered as of yesterday, and the fourth one is I might leave that because the first 3 would give enough profit, enough release to get started on the units that I can get some of the groundworks done, hopefully before the rain comes. Well, if the rain stops first, then
yeah, it's July. To give everyone context, it's July 16th that we are interviewing this. And whilst James is braving it with a t-shirt, I'm in a jumper, and it has been raining, as you guys will know.
Oh, it's been terrible.
Yeah, run us through kind of actually what the works you need to do on each of these. You know, what did that include? Was that roof? You know, was it all the way back to brick? Kind of what were you actually doing? Yeah, on each of these units.
Yeah, so I would say back to brick, but also a bit further because a good chunk of the brick was also taken down. 1 wall right to ground level. So yeah, one of these places was actually occupied as a sign shop, and yeah, but the buildings are falling apart. So rafters are snapped, roofs collapsing. The gable wall at one end where there's 2 big arches, which I think there'll be a picture of that. It was collapsing over the years. It's probably 200 years of movement, but in a 6-foot spirit level, it was 5 inches out of plumb, right, which is huge. So at some point, this wall would have gone. So yeah, this whole gable wall, we're kind of talking, it would be probably 8.5 meters high, 8 meters wide. We had to take it all down and rebuild it, using the same bricks, clean all the bricks, rebuild it. Most of the building was dropped to first floor windowsill height because the roof had no structural ties. The roof was pushing the walls out. Had to drop the walls and rebuild and plumb. New concrete floors throughout, whole new roof. Reused the tiles though. A couple of small extensions, all fully insulated up to modern building regs. Pretty much, yeah, everything. Pretty much everything. Fully rebuilt.
How much of this are you able to do yourself? I know you're quite hands-on. How much of it are you bringing in kind of the pros?
So most of the stuff I do now is kind of the groundworks. I have a machine drive that comes in when I need him, and my site labour is there all the time. So the groundworks I've kind of look after myself still, just because I don't know, it's nice and you got that right. But everything else is kind of subcontracted out now. I'm always there looking after materials, moving stuff about if needs be, ordering stock. But most of the bits are kind of subbed out. But there's always the bits in between, especially with buildings like this. It's not a new build where you can just split it down into blocks of There's always these bits in between. So there's always those kind of jobs which fall back on me.
So you tend to be on site every day? How does that work?
Yeah. I'm there kind of 7:30 to 5:30, 6:30. May
It's very
start.
much this is the full-time job at this point. Your full-time job is this project.
Oh yeah, and more. So every evening I come back, see my 20-month-old today daughter for half an hour away, have dinner, and I'm back in the office sorting stuff the next day, or back there. So tonight I'll probably go back down there for a couple of hours and just measure up a few more bits, get a few more plans in place, a few more lists for the boys for the next few days. So yeah, it's full-time job in a bit.
It's more than full-time by the sounds of it.
That's it.
Let's talk about timelines. So of the overall project, and then let's go into the finances. So you've mentioned that this we're looking to potentially finish or not quite finish by kind of August, September time, or probably more September time. The overall project, how long do you think that's going to take? Because this is it's massive.
Years.
How many?
Probably my original plan for when I purchased it, I was thinking kind of 3 years from purchase, 6 months a year on planning, a couple to build, I'll be done. That 3 years runs out in about 4 or 5 months, and I've done 15% of the site. So it took so long to get planning as well. It was almost 2 years with all the design side of it. What are we on now? So if I get this first phase done by September, if I can 3 full years from that September for the rest of the site, if I can be done, I'll be very happy.
Okay, interesting. And the finances, run through the finances. Everyone's going to want to know the numbers. Run us through all of those.
Yeah, so subject to change massively because build costs will change and all estimates, and also the market's changing. So
especially with the fact that we are talking years into the future, you're projecting what material is going to cost in years to come. And we know from the last 3 years that that could be from here to here. So subject to a lot of changes.
And generally, from what I've seen before, probably because I'm so hands-on, that when I kind of set a budget, 9 times out of 10, it's always quite a good chunk under budget. It normally takes a bit longer because I'm doing too much myself, but generally things come in under budget. So phase 1 will cost around 400,000, maybe just under, maybe 380 for the 4 units and all the structural work. GDV with that will be, originally planned was 800, but very luckily for me, 500 meters away is another mill which is being converted, and it's got like for like comparisons easy to justify to the surveyor. So that should probably push up more to the 850 mark for phase 1.
Fantastic. And you said earlier that you were hoping for about 28 to 30% profit on that. So you're talking hopefully quite a good return on that.
Yeah, because I've also apportioned quite a lot more of the planning costs and design costs to the first phase.
Sure.
And the land value, of course, for the first phase. So it's profitable. That's what you get for getting your hands dirty.
No, it is, and spending a lot of time doing it. And the overall site, what are you looking at roughly there?
I've got to check these figures off my computer because they've changed. My focus for the last few weeks has just been phase 1, getting this done. I've kind of forgot what's going on. So overall, the whole site will come in just over 6 million GDV for the new units for the mill, because it's 20. I never actually said that, did I? It's 20 residential units, 15 apartments, 5 houses, which makes it 20, plus 8 1,000 square foot business units with a mezzanine. So they're about 17,000 square foot business units. So total GDV will be just over 6 million, and total build cost will probably be in the range of 4.
Which is 6 million. 6 million GDV of something that was originally listed for 195,000. It's just bonkers, isn't it? It's absolutely bonkers.
That's it. Looking back, everything about this project is massive, apart from the purchase price. The purchase price now, looking at it, was like a tiny little bit on the bottom, but it's the risk you take, isn't it? It's
sure. Well, look, let's talk about learnings. What kind of learnings have you had so far from this? What from your side, and any equally that you think that our readers and watchers might learn something from?
Everything takes far longer than what I was expecting. Both planning and restoring listed buildings is all you take something apart and something's collapsing, and you think, well, I might as well do this. I might as well get this, especially being built to rent. I don't want to be coming back to anything structural for forever. It's taken far longer than I was expecting. I was hoping to get the first unit released and some money out of it kind of Feb, March this year. But it's looking now it's going to be kind of August. What else? That's probably the main one, really. There's not enough hours in the day. You can't control the weather.
Sure. How are you doing the how are you financing the build costs? Obviously, you mentioned that your kind of your 310 into it was everything. So where have you found the rest of the money?
So all the development costs are private finance. The site purchased myself, that was scraping even checking down the side of the settee for a few quid to purchase the site. Planning and development are private investment.
And is that family? Is that people that you've kind of you've worked with in the past? Who are these kind of private financiers?
Everyone, anyone, family, friends, local businessmen, people, and women actually. People I've met off the internet, friends of friends, people I didn't even know followed me on Facebook. Anybody takes an interest.
So I guess the one of the kind of learnings there is be pretty vocal about what you're doing, and there's potentially money that will follow. Fantastic. I don't know if there's from your side any other challenges that you want to talk about from this. We always like hearing challenges and kind of how they've been overcome. Anything else that kind of springs to mind from you from a challenge perspective?
The biggest challenge was the planning, kind of like mentally, because of course the build side of it, I can always put a few more hours in.
You're the master of your own destiny.
Yeah, that's it. You're in charge. You can do what you want, and it's all known. You can go down there and just look at stuff and work it out. But planning, you're working with your consultants and you're working with the council. You're working everybody else's timescales, and you can't do anything. You can't sort of, we'll get started September. Let's start organising and booking this in, because you have no idea. And every kind of week, I was kind of hoping. This was literally right at the end. We're waiting on a couple of things. I thought this week it's bound to come through, and then that went on for probably 12 more weeks. Sure. Bearing in mind that a major plan application should take 13 weeks, it's kept going on and going on and going on and going on. It was all due to BNG was the main.
I guess order. You were lucky there, as you kind of alluded to earlier, because you bought it in cash. You weren't, your only financial loss there is the opportunity cost, which you'll win back at the end. If you were on a bridge, if you were on private finance, those months it's going to start getting quite financially stressful, as well as just the frustration.
Definitely, and I was also quite lucky that during the purchase of the site, I found out that the owners had a neighbouring bit of land that they wanted to dispose of, and it's a fishery. But the actual reservoirs of that fishery, the actual lakes were the reservoirs that used to power the mill. So I found out they wanted to sell this. So during the purchase, we agreed a price, purchase this. That was a place I could kind of do a bit of work on in the meantime. I could keep my, I've got one full-time site labourer, could kind of keep him going. We could kind of tick over, ready for the build to start.
Fantastic. No, that makes sense. It sounds like a wicked project. I'm very excited. I know we were speaking before about potentially coming down to check it out, because I think this is the kind of thing that everyone we're going to need to see. And those who are watching who haven't read the article, definitely check the article out. So we're going to have lots of photos there, and potentially some video content in the future. Last thing from me, James, is that I imagine a lot of readers, a lot of watchers, a lot of members of the YPN community are going to want to follow this journey, because this is going to be months and years of hard labor, and then they're going to want to sit back and watch and see the progress. Where can people follow this? How can they kind of watch the progress? What's the best way to keep in touch?
So Facebook, my Facebook profile is where we put, I say regular updates, but it's kind of always put on the priority list. So it's, Facebook's the main one. We have got Instagram as well, but Facebook's the main site. I did want to start putting YouTube, but it's on the job list, and I'll get there. But Facebook
and your Facebook and Instagram are what?
Ross Developments.
Ross Developments. There you go. And in the article we'll have links towards that. Yeah. Awesome. James, anything else from your side before we wrap things up?
No, I think that's it. One thing I did learn actually from this project and the planning that I just thought of is keep in contact with locals. Local people, kind of, especially buildings like this, they want to see it restored. They want to see something happen with it. So right from the start, I was putting content out on social media, getting them involved, and even some of them came with some great ideas that we actually used in the plan application. We did some
What
open
kind of ideas was that?
kind of using original features, kind of highlighting different parts of the building. Somebody said that where the water used to come into the wheel, after it used to be an open tailway, so where the water used to come out the mill and cross under the road. He says in the 70s he remembers actually being open. So after that, I went out to have a look. I got the digger out and scraped around, and all the walls and the lining for that are still there. So that we're going to reinstate. I'm going to dig it back out, make it like an open waterway, like a bit of a feature pond. And I would have known that if somebody would have pointed it out.
I think the reality is that with a site like this, the locals going to know it a hell of a lot better than you will. They've grown up with it. They've seen it. They've messed around on the site, and they're probably on side as long as what you're doing is they deem it as good. They're probably on side because no one wants to see these kind of things deteriorate. They're going to want to see new life kind of breathe in.
And when we were struggling with the plan application, when these weeks were passing by and getting nowhere, I put another video out on social media, almost calling the council out because there wasn't waiting anything. It was just dotting the I's and crossing the T's. And I kind of asked people, like, if you want to help me out, kind of write a letter of support to the council. And I think overnight I got 32 people writing or emailed into the council, giving all these supporting comments, which it did annoy the council a little bit. They kind of come back and say, we're doing everything we can. I was like, well, you're not. And then, a couple of weeks after that, they passed it off.
Bit of pressure on the council. No, love to see that. Awesome. Well, look, it sounds like a fantastic project. I'm personally very interested in following how it goes. As I know a bunch of the readers and watchers will be. So yeah, we'll keep contact and and see where we go. But thank you so much for coming on. I've really enjoyed it, and really excited to get this out to everyone.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
Fantastic. Thank you.